challenge.
Hmm.
And that's one thing about being in my faith, that I realized that God will throw you things to make you grow. Sometimes we get too comfortable with life, and you realize like, okay, things are feeling great, and they start to feel great for a long period of time. But after a while, you're like, all right, I'm still in the same place that I was last year, say for instance, right? I'm still in the
Hmm.
same place that I was 5 years ago, because there is no growth. You haven't met no challenges to force you to increase in self, right? And even as a man, as you spoke about it, like, um, the thing that helps me the most is being surrounded by men who are doing that, right? Who
The
are in this,
accountability, yeah.
who are meeting their challenges and who are beating it, who are being strong in their faith, and taking those challenges personally, and know, but knowing that there is a greater thing, right? There's greater than me, right? So that's my strength, right? um, yeah. So that's the thing that I face with every, time period, is
Hmm.
when the challenges come, knowing how to handle them, but become better, right? And also understanding about perspective,
Okay.
the glass half full, half empty. Some people going to look at the glass and say, "Oh, complain," and like, "Oh God, why me?" Like, or why I got to
Exactly.
go through all those things.
Right.
What I'm transforming and growing into is wondering, like, what's the lesson that this is teaching me,
Mm.
right? How am I going to become better from this? I'm not worrying about the downs no more. And I used to do that all the time, right? I'm not worrying about the downs more. How can I make a come up from this? Whatever challenge, it could be small, big, medium, whatever. There is a reason for everything, and that's what I believe in.
That's
So
good. That's good. Like the L's are not losses, they're just lessons.
lessons, that's it.
And growing together. And we also always talk about, relationships and connectivity. So
Mhm.
in these spaces, when you're having, these moments where they're called the mountain high and the valley lows, the
Right,
importance of growing together because,
right,
both you and I are in the social media space, and
right.
you hear a lot of what we call the red pill, blue pill culture, and this mantra or narrative that the person you meet, they start out have to be at this level, have these things, have certain amount of dollars, whatever, but not leaving room to grow together as people. And I heard someone say before, I think it may have been Tyler Perry, and he was talking about life is cyclical in a relationship. Like the person you met at 25 or 30, they're not going to be the same person at 40 because life happens. And every time you have a life event, you evolve. So you're not the same
Mhm.
person after a parent passes away or after a job loss or after someone you love, like your child or someone dies, or you graduate from school. And so I think he said every 5 to 7 years, it may have been shorter than that, you're meeting a new version of that person. And so
Mhm.
that's why sometimes you see these divorce rates after they've been married 20 years and divorce. And it's like, why? And they're like, oh, well, they change. Well, people are going to change and evolve. And if you're just
Yep.
constantly stuck on the narrative or the person you met at 25 or 30, and then have this expectation that's the same person they're going to be at 40 or 45 or 50, you're going to be disappointed.
Yep.
So for you as a man, what do you say to having your person and leaving room for growth, leaving room for, because people will make mistakes. Things are, life is going to life, things are going to happen, but leaving that space to grow together.
I, and that's some good points you made. What I will say is that you have to be open for change,
Hmm.
right? You gotta realize that life is not going to stay the same.
Right.
And once you realize that life is not going to stay the same, then you're able to have that ability to change your perspective accordingly.
Hmm.
You're going to have that ability to change your perspective, and realize that, it's not all about you. It's
Right.
not all about what you think, right? So, in order to grow with someone, you got to leave room for growth.
That's good.
It's simple as that. You got to leave room for growth. If you're at the ceiling of your thinking, then it is what it is. you
Hmm.
you ain't going no higher, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't increase in yourself, and that's what my motto has been all year, increasing myself, that my ceiling goes even higher. If you don't create space for yourself to accept someone and accept their growth along with your growth, you're gonna be stunned.
That too. And I think also that comes with having the sensitivity. Even if they say, oh, I'm good, I'm fine, and you can go, no, what's wrong for real, and
Right,
having that discernment to pick that person up and saying, hey, no, let's sit down, let's talk, let's check in for real. What's really going on with you today? I know we've discussed this before, being the vault for that person, being the
right,
safe space for that person where they even feel comfortable enough to talk to you.
right,
Because we see a lot of things, times again, because we're in a digital media culture, where there's a fear of things being weaponized down the road. And
yep.
so for you, what has that looked like for you? And what does that look like for you as far as that vaulted space?
So the thing with the vault thing is, so we did talk about this, right? You got to have someone you can share your vulnerabilities with. Um, since our last talk, I realized like you got to be really watchful with who you make that vault for. You,
Oh, that's good.
yeah, you got to be
Let's
watchful.
unpack that. I like that.
No, you really got to be watchful for who you give that passcode to, that password
Mhm.
to, right? Because not everyone has access to your vault, but the ones you give that password to, you got to be careful. Because I will say, I've been disappointed by
Okay.
some people this year that I was totally surprised by, like blindsided by. But it also goes back to your point about people growing, right? People going in different directions in life.
Hmm.
Certain tragedies changing people, or certain events, life events changing people, right?
Hmm.
Just because someone is your best friend today does not mean they're going to be your best friend next year. And I learned that the hard way.
Do you have to
I'll,
pace yourself? Like you have to vet this person and watch them through different. Is that? I'm just
you
trying to
got it
figure out like where's this going, because it sounds like a vetting process.
right. So I won't say it's a vetting process,
Hmm.
but what I will say is that everyone has to have an understanding that everyone is human,
Okay.
and that everyone sins, and that everyone has vulnerabilities or some kind of weakness that we don't know about, even your best friend don't know about, right? So that if they succumb to that weakness, they will become a totally different person. The best friend you thought you had today, if they succumb to their weakness, tomorrow they'll be totally different. Their
So
loyalty.
I'm not putting words in your mouth. So I'm just trying
Mhm.
to understand what you're saying. Are you saying don't put anything past anybody, or
I mean, if you want to simply say that, yeah. But if we being
I
real,
mean, I'm just trying to figure out your line of
you know,
psychology here. I'm like, okay, what is he really saying here?
what I'm truly saying is that
Don't let anything catch you off guard or by surprise, because at the day, people are still people.
you have to put your all in your faith.
Okay.
And even though you want to put your all in man, you shouldn't do that, because
Well,
everyone.
the word says that you put no confidence.
Eggs. There you
Yeah.
go. There you go. But
Yeah.
sometimes, you get an infatuation, right? You
Yeah.
get in love, or you get to a point where you're at a point in your friendship where you feel like I can tell my friend anything. She would
Mm.
never, he or she would never betray me, right? Like
Not,
yo,
not so and
we
so.
we've been through the works. What?
Yeah, yeah. I see what
You
you're
doubt
saying.
you
Okay.
doubting so and so? Nah, never that. That's not the case, yo.
But
So
isn't that where the discernment kicks in when you're taking that time, even if you're in this friendship or whatever, that you're praying and watching? And sometimes God will drop those gems and those nuggets, and we're so in love or infatuated. We're like, no, that's just.
mhm,
And I will say that I've been guilty of that before, where flag on the play, like
mhm,
football, just like, well, but it's like, no, they're a habitual line stepper.
yep,
And at some point, you got called technical and eject
yep.
or get them out. So it's just like I watch a little bit of football. But I think what you're saying is very important as far as pacing how much you divulge, because we just really want this person to be our person.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, whoa, let's slow
And
down,
and
you know.
also understanding, right? So that was the
Yeah.
thing too with me. Like, if things didn't go as planned for me, I would get upset.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I would get up like, why didn't this happen?
Mhm.
Like, what do you, common sense would tell you that this thing should have went this way, right?
Right.
But it's not about what we think, because, like I said, everyone has their faults, everyone has their sins, right? So going back to what you originally stated about the vault, right? Um,
Mhm.
that was my lesson this year. Be careful who you lend your vault to.
Ooh.
Because, and another thing with being a vault, like being a vault to a partner, is that you might take in something from someone, right? You might take a secret or whatever, and they can abuse you for that. They can say, like, you know what? Since I told you this before, I'm gonna keep piling on to you. I don't care how you feel. I don't care the emotional drain that you're taking from taking this information from me. I don't care. I just need to let this, I need to vent. I need to let this go. I need to tell somebody. The thing with the helper and the helped is that there's a difference, right? There's a line in the sand between the person understanding and feeling for the other person too. There
So
needs
we're talking about sharing the passcode. Is that what we're doing?
no, just with one person.
Okay.
So now that that person has the passcode, right? That person has to have concern for you too. Like
Okay.
that, the helper needs to be helped too sometimes, right? Because being a helper sometimes is draining, right? So you're taking in all
So you're
this.
speaking of, because there's a lot of code, and I'm trying to break it down. So for the listeners, so they're like,
Yeah.
"What is he saying?" So you're talking about reciprocity.
Yeah, and understanding,
Okay.
right? Because like the thing with a lot of people who like want to vent to other people is that they just want to let things off their chest, right? They
Yeah.
want to unload, and they feel like they feel comfortable with this person, their partner, to unload. But you also gotta. I would suggest that you also take concern for the person you're unloading to, because you
Okay.
never,
Now it's clicking. Okay.
yeah, because
Gotcha.
you never know the effect that
Gotcha.
or
Because
the
they have their
trigger,
things too, and you're just dumping, dumping, dumping.
and you're not asking about them. Are you okay? Because they might have triggers too.
Reciprocity. Got you.
Right?
Okay. Now we're tracking. I was like, I know I'm
Yeah,
not slow. Let me
yeah.
listen.
I can't. I'm coming deep. I'm coming deep today. Come on,
Yes,
see.
you are. Okay. It's been a day because when you take a week off,
Yeah.
that podcaster had. I'm like,
Oh, you
what?
took a week off?
Well, I had a show last week, and
Oh, you a
then,
hard worker. I'm surprised.
but I mean, well, October is full.
Okay.
So, because
Okay.
I had a guest last week, I have a guest next week.
Okay.
A week after that, Heart and Soul, which there's going to be a panel of 9 women.
Got you. Ooh.
So I've been,
Ooh.
he said, ooh.
That's
So and have you been on Heart and Soul
yeah.
before?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yep.
yes, you have.
Yeah.
So, and you'll be on the next one.
Yep.
So,
I'm not a
and
woman, so I understand.
yeah, the women, so the ladies, and it's an amazing conversation. But I said all that to say is, as far as I think it is important that when we are sharing, that we take in mind that the person that you are opening up to, they have things as well, and to kind of have some discernment or just sensitivity or intuition, and know that you could be putting too much on their plate,
Yeah.
because everyone has a capacity. And if